Welcome. Good morning. It is the 27th of April, and today is day two of NFPA 70B second draft meetings. No, I'm sorry. Today's day three. We had day two. I'm giving you a day two report. Sorry about that. So what happened on, and I'm just going live because I have to get ready for our meeting. We've been through task groups 1, 2, 3, and we're on task group 4. And 70B is what we're going to. We had a great day yesterday. We got through a bunch of public comments. I'll tell you where we're at. We're on day 2, right? So total public comments. Total public comments we have are 707. So 707 for one committee for the entire week. That's the most public comments 70B has ever received. And I'll tell you, a very large contributor, the industry is really speaking up when it comes to the input on this document. So I just want to give you a little flavor for, so we went through day 1, we got through 125 public comments. Day 2, we went through 181, but we tabled a few of those. So there's a good chunk of those that were tabled, but we got through a lot of the debates and discussions. So that task group is supposed to meet last night, which I believe they did. And they'll probably bring to the table, and I'm not sure when our chair will review that information. But that will happen. That will happen probably sometime this week. So anyway, I just want to make sure that everything is going fine. Okay, so yep, it is. So let's talk about we had 707 total. We've been through 125 on the first day, 181 on the second day, and yeah, some of those were tabled, but we have 401 left over, and plus whatever was tabled today, and I didn't tally those up. So we need to complete 133 public comments a day to stay on track. And actually, it's probably a little bit more than that, probably 143 a day, because I believe the one bucket of public comments that we tabled was kind of huge. There was like 33. Yeah. Paul is arguing bucketing items were not addressed. So this one, I got to mark it as tabled because we did table, and it was on table 10.2.2. So tabled. And I need to mark that in red. So here's what I do is I keep tabled. I keep these. I'll show you what I do. I keep these in my notes. In my notes. So this is basically where I'm at. So I just basically walk down through each of the public comments, and as you can tell over here, I keep track of how many public comments, how many second revisions, and how many CSRs, which is a committee second revision. Because remember, we don't need a public comment to make a change. So the committee can fix problems, address issues, and what we do is we create committee second revisions. This is the one that was tabled. Some of and you know, Paul was arguing a little bit about that some of these bucketed items were not addressed or were actually rejected. So the committee has to take a look at that. What else? All right. So, and then we had second revision. So this one here was actually item 52. We had bucketed that as a reject, but then we decided to actually accept it. So we moved that into the bucket with those, and we call this the bucket. So what you typically do when you look at a section in the code or whatever document that you're working on, a lot of these are all public comments. So a lot of these public comments all wanted to seek to do either do the same thing or make a change on that specific section. So every one of these wanted to make a change to table 11.3.1. So what we did, and what the committee will do, is put all of those into the bucket and modify table 11.3.1. And basically what you're doing is you're including the changes from each of those public comments. So what we can do is, as a committee, we will throw up the language for, say, table 11.3.1 and go through all of those changes and say, here's everything that we've changed. And oh, by the way, all of those changes were requested by these public comments. And we create a second revision based on all of those public comments. Now, it just so happens on this one that we, at first, we're going to delete or reject 52. So what we did was we voted on this bucket as a second revision for table 11.3.1. Then we made the motion to reject 52. And during that discussion, the committee said, no, you know what? We actually like what 52 was doing. So we incorporated the changes of 52. But so what we had to do was we had to vote that motion down and then reopen table 11.3.1, add 52 to the bucket, and make the changes in 11.3.1, and then revote on the entire table 11.3.1. So that was the process that we went through. And here's another good example, 59. We moved 59 back up into the bucket. So that was, and if you look, I got 133, 134, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, and that is 52. I wanted to make sure I didn't count 59 twice, so I didn't. All right, so that is that's sort of how we rolled. My task group 4. I tell you what, when you work with a great group of individuals like Scott Blizzard and Marcelo Valdez and Jeff Fecteau and all these guys, they pay attention to a lot of the details any one of us may miss. And I'll tell you what, we had a really good task group. I'm very happy to have been able to usher that through. So we worked hard on that one, and we got now, but we have to reopen. We have to reopen public comment 42, which is in 11.3.5, because we have to fix that because of what we did. We're trying to maintain consistency. All right, so, and again, there's another one where I have to go back and fix 12.3.4 because of what we did here at 13.3.4. That change is going to make us go back to chapter 12 and make it consistent with what we did in chapter 13. So one of the things, and you know we're going to miss it. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but we're trying. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going through this document, and when we see, for example, even some of the other task groups are going, they have a similar, if not the exact same language change that they're going to either reject or accept. So what we do with each other is maybe we like their language a little better, and so we try to make it consistent as best as we can. There is clarity and consistency. There is accuracy of enforcement with clarity. And there is safety in accuracy. So if you follow that value chain, what we do in this language makes a difference in the end with regard to electrical safety. All right, so I am just looking at some comments and some texts that are coming in. All right. There's just a lot of going on. That's all there is. That's all that there is to it. A lot going on. Okay. Now another thing that's going on. Okay, so let's just continue to go here. So there was our total 707 per day. So now, I do want to talk about some maintenance intervals. So we had a great discussion yesterday about maintenance intervals. Remember that per 70B, when you go to chapter 10, so which again, we're moving some chapters around. Hey, Ahmed from KSA in the house. Thanks for joining us. I'm just talking about what happened yesterday. And I'm going to try to do this every morning to just give you a little shout out with regard to the activity and the progress that we made the day before on the development of 70B, because we're going through the second draft meetings. Now, in chapter 10 is the chapter, this chapter is titled Maintenance Intervals. Now, how do we use maintenance intervals? So how does this all relate? If you think about, you have the equipment chapter, right? We have an equipment chapter, and in the equipment chapter, for example, let's take a look at chapter 15 is circuit breakers, because I know everybody loves a circuit breaker. In the circuit breaker chapter, we talk about things like visual inspections. So what do we do as a visual? So we tell you that when you are conducting maintenance and when you are going to do a visual inspection of a circuit breaker, this is what you do. You verify the ratings for proper system application. You inspect the insulating materials and the frame for any evidence of physical damage, cracks, if you see soot, etc. You got to look at the wiring to that breaker. You have to think about, look at the markings on the circuit breaker. Make sure they're all still legible. You don't know what may happen with the actual labels. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the weather is deteriorating them. So we tell you in each of the chapters for each of the products what to look for when you perform maintenance. So we tell you the visual inspections. We tell you how to clean the circuit breaker. We tell you how to lubricate the circuit breakers that can be lubricated, right? So a molded case circuit breaker, there's no lubrication. But on some insulated case circuit breakers and some power circuit breakers, there is a level of lubrication that can be performed. Then we have mechanical servicing. So we tell you in each chapter what to do in each of these categories. So let's just go down through the list. You've got visual. We talked about visual. You have cleaning, right? You have lubrication. You have mechanical servicing. That would be like if you have a circuit breaker that has linkages. Say it's a power circuit breaker and you have racking in and racking out things. You're going to want to make sure that all of that mechanism is all working, right? Then there is electrical tests. Right, so we have to look at so if you look at each of the chapters, they're going to have topics that are just like this, though: visual, cleaning, lubrication, mechanical, electrical, and there might be special. Okay, there might be some special, which I think in some cases we just deleted those, but you may or may not. And what we're trying to do is keep it all consistent. So we've actually added in we've added in some things that, what do you call it? There's your electrical special, and that's like your ground fault. So, and we've added in some things that are reserved, but we wanted to be consistent. Hey, Mark, good morning, sir. Good morning. So each of the chapters for the equipment chapters, for the equipment chapters will tell you what you need to do for visual, for cleaning, for lubrication, for mechanical, electrical, and any special tests that you have. But what it doesn't really address is how often. It tells you that some of these tests can be done online. Good morning, Raphael. Some of these tests can be done online. Some of them have to be done offline. Some of them are enhanced tests. And if you look at the video from yesterday, which was a report out of what happened on day one, I did go over that concept of what is a enhanced test. It's not an optional test. It's when you do other tests and you think something else might still be wrong, then you add on the enhanced test, right? So check out the video from yesterday because I talk about that. Now, today's discussion, and we spent a lot of time on this because this is a very important critical piece of the pie. Today's discussion was the complement of, in each of those chapters on equipment, we tell you what you need to do for each of these tests. But we don't tell you the frequency and the intervals. That is what chapter 10 is all about. Now, what chapter 10 recognizes is that you have to determine the condition. Because chapter 10 will tell you, here's what chapter 10 does. It takes each of these categories that are in each of the chapters for the equipment. Hey, Dirty Mike, hello. Each of the categories that are in each of the chapters, mechanical, criticality, operating, and load, we evaluate the condition. So when you look at the table, you will see a line item for visual inspections, a line item for cleaning, a line item for lubrication, mechanical inspections, electrical tests, and any special. So you'll see that in the table. And then across this way in the table, so here's what you've got. You've got a table that looks like this. In fact, I'm going to call it up, and I can draw it out. And I want, because it's like I say, this was a long discussion, and I think the task group 3 did a great job. Haley did a great job in pulling that together. So here's what you've got. I get my pen working. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, right? So this is product. And this is scope of work. Scope of work. Then we have condition 1, condition 2, and condition 3. All right. And then they got rid of the references, so I won't add that one in there. And then this is your equipment condition assessment. Right. So now, what you'll see in this column, in the first column, you have products. So say this is circuit breakers, and I am significantly reducing the amount of text I write. So keep that in mind. And all of this is fluid. That's the other thing. Keep in mind, all of this is fluid, but the structure that I'm telling you right here is not fluid. The actual verbiage that's inside this table is. So that's active text. So you have the product will be the equipment, right? So in the scope of work, you know what you're going to have? The scope of work right here. Visual, cleaning, lubrication, mechanical, electrical, and then also any special, right? So in here, you're going to have cleaning, lubrication, visual, electrical, etc. So these are your scopes of work, and those will be consistent. Bam, 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 all the ways down. And then you'll be able to go into the chapter on circuit breakers and see a section that addresses cleaning, lubrication, mechanical, visual, electrical. And then in here, condition 1, you're going to have months. So cleaning might be 60. Oh, this might be 60 months, 36 months, and then 12 months. So you have a condition 1, 2, and 3, which dictates how often you have to do the tasks that are in that table. Okay, so what chapter 10 does, chapter 10 focuses on that condition, on how do you determine what is the condition of your electrical equipment. Circuit breakers is an example. Panel boards, switchboards, transformers. Just go through the chapters. Chapter 14 is busway. 15, circuit breakers, low and medium voltage. 16 is fuses. 17, switches. 18, power cables, cable tray, grounding and bonding. You just go down through that list of equipment, and you have to ascertain and determine, hey, Al, good morning. Does ANSI, NETA, MTS work with 70B? So NETA sits on this panel, and we are in some cases referencing NETA standards. So they their standards are influencing this NFPA 70B document. So Al, I would say that in some cases 70B may actually be the adopted standard, right? But we do reference other standards that, conduct this based on manufacturer's instructions or industry standards, other industry standards. So they're recognized. So the equipment condition assessment is chapter 10. Now, if you go to chapter 10 and you want to understand the condition, to give it a number, 1, 2, or 3, right? Because in the table, we have condition 1, condition 2, or condition 3. So you have to determine, say, a panel board or switchboard. What is the condition? Is it a 1, 2, or 3? Because that will tell you if you've got to clean every 60 months or clean every 12 months, or if you have to do a visual inspection, say, every 60 months or weekly, right? So the frequency will depend upon the condition. So now, how do we arrive on the condition? So chapter 10 is separated into these 4 basic categories of condition. You have the mechanical condition, the criticality condition, operating condition, load condition. And I'll give you an example. And again, this is not the final language. And I know we made some changes here. So what I'm giving you is basically it's not the final results of our votes. So keep that in mind. The equipment condition assessment. The condition 1, from a mechanical perspective, the equipment isn't, the equipment appears in like new position. The enclosure is dry and clean and tight. We had an argument or a debate about what do we mean by tight, and the covers are on and fixed in place, etc. There are no predictive techniques or no issues with that. So you're dealing with new product. Condition 2 is assigned when you have visible damage, when you have evidence of arcing or overheating, when you have enclosure appears to be deteriorated due to age, user abuse, there are unused openings. So you're looking at the physical. Remember, this is I'm talking mechanical right now. Okay, I'm in this group right here. Thank you, Ahmed. So, and then condition 3 is, this is like, okay, stuff happened. Okay, stuff happened to this equipment. You've got severe corrosion. You've got active arcing and overheating. So that is the equipment mechanical condition 3. So then criticality. So let's talk about criticality. Criticality condition. It says the criticality of equipment shall be evaluated based upon the threat to personnel safety. All right, Ahmed, catch up later, buddy. the threat to personnel safety from an environmental impact, damage, or to other equipment. So what you're looking at here is, if I have a failure in this equipment, can it kill somebody? Right? So this is the criticality. Can it take down a process? Can it take down a process that can hurt someone or that could shut down equipment that could cause a catastrophe, a nuclear plant. I mean, or a petrochem facility that if I shut this down, I'm harming the environment. I'm doing something. So these are critical components. And I'll tell you what they did was they combined conditions 1 and 2 together. And we had a debate about that. They combined conditions 1 and 2 because they were like, you can give it a 1, you can give it a 2. It's up to the person, etc. So in any case, you have 1 and 2, which is, look, there's moderate. It's not going to kill anybody. But then you have condition 3, which, if this thing goes down, it's bad. Stuff's going to happen. Then you have the operating environment. And I forgot to put environment here. ENVIRONMENT, environment. Equipment shall be considered operating environment condition 1 when the following criteria are met. The air is clean or filtered to remove dust. The temperature is maintained. The relative humidity is, so this is looking at the environment. The equipment shall be considered operating condition 2 when you have space is not climate controlled. The equipment is in a properly rated enclosure if for the environment conditions or designed for weather exposure. And then 3 is extreme temperature, high levels. So what they're trying to do here is say, how do I account for the condition of this when I'll treat a product differently if it's sitting on a dock next to a ocean than I will if it's sitting in my basement in an environmentally controlled environment. Right? So my frequency will change on those two extremes. And the operating environmental condition helps me account for that. That makes sense. All right. So, and then the third one is load. The load condition of electrical equipment shall be considered when determining the appropriate basis for maintenance intervals. Safety and limit controls shall periodically inspect, check, and test to be tested. So that's not very clear on the load condition. I'm going to have to come back to that one after I take a look at what we changed that language to. But those are our categories. Now, here's how this works. When I look at any specific piece of equipment, I'm going to evaluate it in these 4 categories. And I'm going to give it a number, a 1, 2, or 3, based upon mechanical, criticality, environmental operating conditions, and load. And the resultant overall condition that I use will be whichever one of those produces a higher number. That would be considered the worst case condition. So, for example, criticality is a 1, operating is a 1, load is a 1, and mechanical is a 2 for, say, my panel board. Then my overall condition is 2. And when I go to my table in chapter 10, 10.1, I believe it's 10.1. I think it's table 10.1. I just want to make sure. It is table 10.1.2.1. Maintenance intervals. When I go into that and I have a column that says condition 1, 2, or 3, if I'm looking at, say, that panel board that I just defined right here as a worst case condition, a condition 2, when I go into table 10.1.2.1, I follow the condition 2 column. And that frequency, though the number of months in that column for the scope of work that I will be conducting. So I would follow this column right here, and for each of the scopes of work that are addressed, These are the frequencies that I would follow to conduct that work. Isn't it cool? I like the way it's logical, but it will. I mean, I can think, Al, you can see how it's going to take some education to help people understand how to use these tables correctly. Okay, so there's two different arguments going on here. You have one argument is in the back of the book or in each of the chapters to say, all right, you're telling me for busway, I need to do what do I need to do for visual inspections? What do I need to do for mechanical tests? What do I need to do for electrical tests? So that's one argument, is the what you need to do. The when, you know what, so here's what we got. We have the what, and those are the equipment chapters. Right? We have the when, that is chapter 10. Or how often, right? Or how often. And then you have the how. And the how is handled by chapter 8. You have chapter 8. These are the test methods. Right, so that's kind of cool. That's sort of the way it's laid out. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple things in there, but you know what I'm doing is we're going to I'm in the process, and why I want to talk this out, and I'm talking it out. And this is what I do, even when I do this in my head when I'm trying to think about how do you teach a topic. Because remember, teaching is telling the story in a way that people A, can understand it, B, it's relatable, and it's logical, right? So it helps me in two things. This is helping me figure out how do I teach this. It's also helping me with my discussion during our 70B meetings. So thanks for indulging me. But that's sort of what's going on with 70B. And we are going to continue our discussions today with I think we're on, hold on. We did 11, 12, and 13. We're going to chapter 14. So I got through 50% of my work yesterday because I have chapters 11 through 16. I did 11, 12, and 13. I need to do 14, 15, and 16 today, and then I'm off the hot seat. All right. I think it looks good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling comfortable with the changes that we're making. I love what Haley's team has done with the table 10.1.2.1 on the maintenance intervals. I really like the changes that they made in 10.2 for assessing the condition of the equipment. I like the way we laid it all out to help you understand. You go to the chapter on the equipment, you understand what you need to do for visual, mechanical, electrical, cleaning, etc. You go to chapter 10 to figure out what the condition is. Once you've ascertained the condition, 1, 2, or 3, you go to the table and it tells you how often you need to do each of those things that we've identified back in the chapter on the specific product. And if you want to know, for example, how to conduct an infrared thermography, you go to fundamental tests, which is chapter 7. If you want to understand what the online and offline and what the standard and enhanced tests are, and what tools and how to treat your tools, and then how to do the test records for when you're conducting it, then you would go to chapter 8. I like this. It's pretty bad when things start to make sense. So anyway, that's where we're at. and I have to, it's 9 o'clock, so I've got to go back and just prepare for my motions that will be made today during our meeting, which starts at 9:30. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you. Take care, stay safe, and please stay healthy.